Hey everybody, it's me, Remy, the comic book poser. I'm here today to welcome you to Enter the Poserverse. Holy crap, it's Monday. I've read comics and school has started. To find out what made my top 5-ish comic books from last week's New Comic Book Day, so if you missed out on them, you know which ones to pick up on this week's New Comic Book Day. You'll check it out after this.
Hey, little girl, did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Cause I got 5 on it. Sorry. Alright, before we talk about my weekly top 5, you know that I'm going to have some random announcements. The first thing is going to actually be a quick unboxing, because I got my Madhouse Comics and Collectibles Patreon print in the mail today. That you know I've been a huge fan of my guy Helvetica, that as I rotate things in and out in the background over here, you'll see his art pop up from time to time, because it's sick, but the reason why some of it is disappearing over here is because a lot of it is going on the walls, and I just have to find a better spot near the camera to hang some of that stuff. But nice little thank you note from the Veticas. So this month's cover, as you saw on their Instagram, on their Patreon feed, or featured on the Madhouse auction, was a Shenanigans tribute to Venom. I think it was 200. I kept getting the number wrong when I talked about it. I think I called it Spawn at one point, because I'm bad at remembering covers. But we got, speaking of Spawn, another dope Helvetica sticker, and my first Madhouse sticker, so those puppies are gonna hang out here in the background. This month they started basically a chase variant where there is the regular print is in color, and the chase, the one of one, if you will, is a black and white sketch variant, or I guess the pure sketch variant. So let's see what we got in 3, 2, 1. Oh, so we did not luck into getting the one of one black and white sketch, but that is beautiful. So this is 13 of 16 from the Maniac Patreon tier, and you've got all the folks at the Madhouse who have signed it. But speaking of Madhouse, I'll be on tonight. It's going to be crazy as per usual, but more so for me because I'm trying to auction comics while putting 3 kids to bed. And if I don't give a shit about prices on things that I put up most of the time, imagine what I'm going to do as I'm fighting kids during my rounds throughout. But, oh, that's a spicy meatball. And then this week, unless my internet crashes, Shop Talk will happen. Fuck you, Midco. But let's talk books. Alright, we have one honorable mention, thus the 5-ish. But from Image Comics, you've got Starhenge, Book 1, The Dragon and the Boar. This is issue number 2. It is all Liam Sharp. This is a brilliant, horror plus fantasy, plus, how does this tie into the modern day with some, not necessarily, time travel, but some is time linear ? Kind of elements to it, that I'm a big fan. That the first issue was not on my pull list, that somehow I missed it. It made the top 5 that week. Issue number 2 is really, really good, but a few things inched it out. Coming in at number 4 is a book that I was terrified to read, but it was so good. From Marvel Comics is Predator number 1 by Ed Brisson, Kev Walker, and Frank DeMarta. So I made it publicly known when Disney/Marvel acquired the rights to both Alien and Predator from Dark Horse that I was real terrified, that I thought it would be sanitized down, that it would be a nerfing of just the brilliance and terror of this universe. And the run on Alien, really disproved me, but I was a little tentative, even with Ed Brisson writing Predator, that something, could happen to to tone it down a bit, and it does not. From the moment of page number 1, and I still need to watch Prey. A lot of people have said it's pretty good. You are seeing some what looks like predator on predator violence until you find that the person who, kills the predator is actually someone in a predator helmet, and it is an origin story of a character named Theta, who is a young girl early on in this story. That this is Theta down here, who's looking at the frogs, fleeing from learning from the ship's AI, and literally her dad, her mom, everybody that she's loved throughout these, several pages are murdered by predators out of the blue, and she has spent the 15 years after the 3rd, 4th, and 5th page of this book hunting down the predator or predators who were responsible for the death of everybody that she knew and loved. And you get a lot of interesting background, especially with the notion that she's a fugitive fleeing on stolen property, and I'm assuming you learn that she was told to hide on the ship and not come out until the ship's AI said it was safe. She saw a couple of grisly deaths go down, and then, we see this time hop. So I'm wondering if, she's been using the ship as basically her means of tracking everybody down and has been on flee from the company that owns it. That's lightly alluded to, but I don't know, if they're going to track her down as a criminal or something like that. But the storyline is gripping from page number 1. The art is brilliant. That these folks on, the first issue of Predator from Marvel is making me happy. And that's something that I did not see coming. And I'm very excited by it. So, kudos. I'm looking forward to issue number 2 already. Coming in at number 4 from Image Comics is The Deadliest Bouquet number 1. It's by Erica Schultz, Carla Borelli, and Gab Contreras on the inks or colors. That's where Gab is. So again, lots of murder and death are happening in the first couple of pages of this book, and I think that's the theme of everything on the top, the top 5 this week. Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell. That's what's going down. But you see some phone calls to what we eventually learn are some siblings, and see the death of a mother in this flower shop. And what we are getting in this issue is some world building. We kind of learn that the mother is some kind of probably badass assassin, and she has trained her 3 daughters who, once they've hit adulthood, kind of are fairly estranged. That 2 of them talk by phone on a regular basis, but they don't see each other a lot. And, naturally the death or murder of their mother is what brings them together. And you get a lot of interesting back and forth between... So Poppy, Violet, and Rose are the 3 sisters. And you know that they're going to work together to kind of figure out, A, what kind of trouble their mother might have gotten into, and B, why the cops may not be dealing with some kind of violent shakedown of businesses in the area. The storytelling is compelling, knowing that Poppy's husband is a lawyer, brings the kids to an active crime scene, is kind of oblivious to what's going on. You just know that a lot of depth to the backstory of these 3 women are coming, and what we see unfold in the last 2 pages of this issue, you know that shit is going to hit the fan from page 1. So definitely check out The Deadliest Bouquet number 2. Coming in at number 3 from Image Comics is Samurai Doggy number 1, and it is by Chris Tech and Santos. This comic basically answers the question, what would have happened if Usagi Yojimbo was way more violent and there were some robot folks involved? And they delivers beautifully. And in a moment where we're seeing a lot of animal themed comics, especially, Good Boy, the John Wick dog assassin book come out from Source Point Press that we're seeing, some of that come out. That the early couple of pages focus on the main character who he sees the death of his mother, and then the killer takes one of his eyes when he should have taken both. And then it just kind of jumps into this future where this particular samurai Dago has been focusing on hunting down the person who is the person who is responsible for the death of his mother. And the art in this book is brilliant, that it just has a good simplicity to both the violence and the way the story is told. But then it becomes a very interesting kind of buddy comedy between the dog and this blue-headed individual who tries to steal something from Samurai Doggy. And the dog is like, I will murder you and everything that you're worth. And then you find out that they're getting ready to shake down the gang that runs this local Ferris wheel. From what I read in the bios, this might be Chris Tech's first comic or graphic novel. That they have a lot of credits in the film and other writing world, but this is their love letter to the medium of comics, and I feel it's on trend right now. It fills that animals with swords kind of hole in my life between the Turtles and Usagi Yojimbo. So very brilliant story. This is definitely one you should pick up. This was the book of the week until I read the last two. And then it fell to third. Because the last two are really good. Alright. Coming in at number 2, we've got 2 Marvel books this week. Because Jason Aaron is on a goddamn tear right now. And your number 2 pick of the week is Punisher number 5. I have been super intrigued with the direction that Jason Aaron took this story in after we saw kind of the events of the Punisher in the... What was it? The Devil's Reign tie-in. I forget the specific. Was it tied into the Woman Without Fear ones? I don't remember. I remember that I read this before the issue of Devil's Reign came out, because the two got sent out on mixed up weeks, and Chip Zdarsky was like, whoops, my bad. But we know that he is now the voice of the Hand. He has declared war on Ares, that his long dead wife has been brought back to life. That didn't mean to rhyme, but it did. Sorry. And he is dealing with kind of his relationship to the Hand, his need for violence in traditional Punisher fashion, and then we finally figure out how truly occult the Hand really is in terms of some of their mystical or mythical powers. But the one thing that I really have enjoyed about this series is the constant throwback to Frank Castle as a child, that we've seen kind of this thread be thrown in throughout. I think it was issues 2 to 5, where we're getting little tastes of what pre-Marines, his wife and kids were murdered Frank Castle. And we find out that, his entire life, he's been this person who has fought in the name of justice against, people who are trying to pick off the little guy or a variety of threats. I absolutely love the idea that teenage Frank Castle fucking played hockey. It was just the world's biggest, most brash enforcer. I would love to see a, fan fiction that is Frank Castle playing hockey versus, is it Sean William Scott as Stifler played the Goon, just this relentless thirst for blood and violence. But I don't know, in all of the Punisher comics that I've ever read, if we get an answer to the question of what made Frank Castle join the Marines. And if I've missed that, then whoops. But I kind of like the idea of how, his friend as a teenager, the first person that he saved from bullying, who was then kind of died because Frank ignored him, because he became too vested in Maria, his wife. I'm very intrigued by that angle of the story, but there are a lot of things going on in here And I'm gonna guess that issue 6 is the end of the arc, because there's a lot of shit that we can play with here in terms of the fist versus the god of war. But it is really, really good. And as I read this, I was like, this might be one of the most perfectly compacted stories that I've ever read, until I read my number 1 pick of the week. This book has been absolutely amazing since the beginning. And Jelly has talked about it on Shop Talk. I have fanboyed out about this book with him. But hands down, your pick of the week from last week's New Comic Book Day from Image Comics is A Town Called Terror, issue number 5. And it's Steve Niles and Simon Kuransky. I don't know how to explain what is going on in this book. That at the end of issue number 4, the main character, the son who goes to confront his father, realizes that he fell into a trap, gets banished to the realm where his mother is. He learns that, like, he's half human and half monster, which is why he's never really fit in to the town called Terror, because it's a town of monsters. But what really blows me away about this book is, like, the Sin City style of art and storytelling that happens in here, where you've got an entirely black and white panel or page that then builds into color splashes and other elements of vivid storytelling, that the art sucks you in to a brilliantly terrifying clash of the titans in this, where we know that the mother and the father have bad blood, that the son has tried to stay away from it for so long, and once he was kind of, deposed, deported, transported, trapped, sent, whatever, dimensionally hopped to the world where his mother is, we knew that it would be dialed up to 11. And this book has absolutely gone off. That the same thing that I said about The Punisher, that I think this book could last for quite some time, that I think we're going to see the first battle in a long-standing war between different paranormal forces of evil versus evil versus evil in issue number 6, that I can't wait to see what happens in the way that the team goes on this story. That I usually can find something tiny to go, ooh, they could have tweaked this, they could have colored this page better. Issue number 5 of A Town Called Terror is showing why this team is literally churning out comic book perfection at the moment. And if you're not reading this, you should definitely chase down the single issues and then buy the trade, because it is that good. That if this doesn't get optioned, somebody's missing something somewhere. But aside from the potential market growth for this story, this is peak horror at the moment. And for as much of a stan as I am for, like, anything that James Tynion is doing in the world of horror comics at the moment, I think A Town Called Terror is probably going to give books like Nice House on the Lake or Something is Killing the Children, or House of Slaughter, a run for its money, or even The Closet. And I fucking love that book right now. It is so good. This might be better. But really, really good week in comics. That there are a couple other things that I wasn't able to read this week just because I'm not caught up yet. But these 5-ish, 6 books if you count Starhenge, really, really good right now. And to see that my list is a mixture, it's usually mostly all indies with maybe a DC or a Marvel comic in there. But to see that 2 made it in there, and they're not just like, oh, this side Marvel title, but to see that Punisher and the Predator at this point are just nailing it to me from Marvel, that maybe this is a spooky week, and maybe, I have a taste for blood coming out now that school has started again. But these 6 books to me were damn near perfect. And I'm excited to see what y'all have to say in the comics, or in the comments down below. That do we read things differently? Are you like, nah, this is bullshit, or anything should be ranked higher? Let me know. I'm down for the dialogue. But I'm excited to see what we talk about in this week's pull list in tomorrow's video, and then what we talk about on Shop Talk on Thursday. But as always, y'all, thanks for stopping by, and have a good one.
Hey, little girl, did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.